What's up guys, Uva here, and in this video we'll be doing an engine oil change on this 2008 Toyota Innova, and the steps will be pretty much similar to any other car, so let's begin. So in this video, we'll determine what's the correct oil and the capacity for your car, the materials that you'll need, how to change the oil itself, as well as some tips and how much it costs. So please stick until the end. So first things first, grab your owner's manual and flip to the maintenance section or the specification section, and you'll find how much oil do you need for your vehicle. So for this 2008 Toyota Innova, it requires 5.6 liters of oil. Then on the same page or another, you'll find a list of recommended oil grades or a chart similar to this. Basically, this chart tells you what's the best oil grade to use depending on the ambient temperature or the outside temperature. So for example, if you live in a tropical country like the Philippines, where the temperature ranges from 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, then it's ideal to use 20W50, 15W40, and 10W30, as these grades are suitable for this range of temperature. You should also check the API category. Be sure to look on the bottle for these marks or seal. Basically, this will tell you if it's approved for gasoline engines or for diesel engines, and if they have the correct API category. If your car requires SL or SM, be sure to get an oil that is API, SL, or SM approved. If there's no more SL or SM, you could always get the SN or SP. So aside from oil grades and API grades, there are also three types of oil. So the first one is the regular or conventional oil. So basically, this oil is the cheapest and the most basic variety of engine oil. This variety of engine oil is refined just enough to perform across wide temperature range and get fortified with other additives. With regular oil, you have a much shorter oil change interval, requiring you to change your oil at around 5,000 kilometers or even less. While on the other hand, the fully synthetic oil is a much refined oil where the impurities are completely removed, thus making it the much more expensive and the one that lasts much longer, lasting at around 10,000 kilometers or even more. And last but not the least is the semi-synthetic oil. Basically, it's just a regular oil blended with a small amount of synthetic oil, enhancing its viscosity and wear resistance at higher temperatures, without escalating the cost too much. So there you have it. That's a very short discussion about the oil viscosity and API grades. So basically, the lower the number for the oil grade, the thinner the oil, the higher, the more thicker that it is. So I recommend on researching some more so that you can understand it much deeper. And as always, a general rule of thumb is just follow the recommended oil that's on your owner's manual. Alright, so what you'll need for this oil change is something to catch your used oil, like a drain pan, and your jack to jack up our car, your oil filter, and most important, the correct oil socket and wrenches, and then for safety, jack stands. So basically, that's the basic stuff we need. But I also highly recommend that you get an oil filter removal tool. Like for example, this oil filter wrench. There are also oil filter sockets, just make sure to get the correct one for your oil filter. Or you could just grab those adjustable ones. Aside from the adjustable socket, there are also wrenches that have straps or chain in them. Or you could just grab these inexpensive gloves that have a rubberized palm. And last but not the least is a funnel. You could cheaply make one out of water bottles. So just basically cut the top portion and there you go, you have a funnel. So I highly recommend having this one as to not make a lot of mess when pouring oil. So we're gonna start off by jacking up our car. So basically pull up the handbrake and then block off the tires. And then we're gonna look underneath the vehicle for mounting points like this thick piece of metal here or the actual frame itself. Then place a jack stand on the cross member or on the frame itself for extra protection. Then we're gonna go underneath the car and look for the oil pan. It's a black pan directly underneath the engine and it has a bolt, so that's what we're looking for. So grab your drain pan and your 40mm socket, and now we're gonna loosen the drain bolt. Once it's loose, we're gonna continue it by hand while exerting pressure to it. This is done to prevent the oil suddenly bursting out and making a huge mess. And make sure that the pan is ready to catch that used oil. If you're planning to send an oil for analysis, make sure to catch oil on its midstream. Don't forget to open the filler cap to make draining much faster. Alright, so while we wait for that to drain, let's locate and remove our oil filter. For this 2008 Toyota Innova, the oil filter is right above the cross member. If it's covered in grime, make sure to clean it off first. So grab your oil filter removal tool and loosen the oil filter. In this case, I just used my hand with the gloves and we got it off. Be sure that a drain pan is right underneath it as we lose the oil filter because it will drip some oil. As I have mentioned earlier, I strongly recommend using a material like a foil to redirect the flow of the oil so that we won't make a huge mess like what I did here.
Ah, God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Once we have removed the oil filter, make sure that the gasket is on the oil filter itself. If the gasket is not there, make sure to get it or remove it from the mounting place.
Alright guys, I'm pretty curious what will be the insides of that oil filter. So if you have watched my video opening a fuel filter, I think I'll do another one, but this time it's an oil filter. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to doing that video as well, so comment down below if you are curious as well.
After that, time to grab our new oil filter and open it up. And since our oil filter is mounted downwards, it's not mounted sideways or top mounted, we could pre-fill it with oil. So when we start the engine, it's not running dry. So grab your oil and fill it up. Just make sure to note how much you have already put in. Once you have filled it, dip your finger in the oil and rub it on the gasket, so that on the next oil change, it will be much easier to remove. And after that, we're gonna install our new oil filter. Just make sure that the mounting place is clean so that we won't have any leaks. No need for special tools on this one, just make sure to hand tighten it. Just tighten it until you cannot move it anymore.
So if you don't have a crush washer, but this one still has, you could put some Teflon right around here. So I think most of the gas station here in the Philippines do that. So if you could see, there are like leftovers of the Teflon. So just make sure to clean this up so that you won't have leak. But it's better to get a crush washer if you have access to it.
Now grab your Teflon tape and wrap around underneath the bolt head. You won't wrap the whole threads, just behind the bolt head. Once we're done, we're gonna install the drain plug now. Just make sure to clean off the pan, especially where the bolt goes. Now we're gonna tighten the bolt. Just make sure not to over tighten it. Once it's snug, just give it an extra turn and you're all good. Now it's time to fill our engine with our new oil. So open the filler cap and grab your new oil. In this video, I'll be doing the no funnel styles, but I strongly recommend that you do it with a funnel, especially if this is your first time.
Oops, we made a small spill there. But we got 1 liter in.
We want to prevent spilling oil on other engine components, especially the belt. A little top tip, pour the oil sideways like this so that the flow of the oil will be smooth and it doesn't come out in blobs. Be sure to keep track of how much oil you have already put in. We don't want to overfill the engine. Overfilling your engine with too much oil could cause problems like smoke coming out from your exhaust. And aside from that, here's another top tip. It's much easier to add oil than to remove oil. So if your car requires 5.6 liters, just put 5 liters first and then check it later. If we're below the low oil level, we could just easily top it off. Make sure to make use of the capacity markers on the side of the bottles to keep track of how much oil you have been putting. Once we're done filling it with oil, check the drain plug and the oil filter if they are tight, and make sure that we have enough oil inside the engine before we start. Time to start it up. Alright, we don't have an oil warning light here. So if you have an oil warning light here, it's probably telling you that you're low on oil, so you need to add up. Alright, so but now we don't have any lights and we're all good. Now time to check for leaks down there. Once we're done checking and there's nothing leaking, remove the jack stands, drop the car, and we're now gonna check the oil level. Now grab a paper towel, pull out the dipstick, wipe it clean, put it back, and then pull it out again. Make sure that the oil is between these two indents, the low and the high marker. And if your oil is below the low marker, open the filler cap and keep adding small amounts of oil and check it again. In my case, the oil level is between the minimum and the maximum markers, so we're all good. And we're basically done with the oil change. And of course, do not forget to properly dispose your used oil. You could use the jugs earlier to store them there and bring it to your local recycling center. Alright, so here we have a little oil comparison. So we have the used oil that we have taken out from the car. It's totally pitch black because it's dirty, compared to the new oil, which is clean and has that golden like color similar to or close enough to a honey but not really. And we also have the previous excess oil, which is a bit much darker compared to the new oil. So I'm pretty curious and excited on doing a little test on these oils. So please stay tuned. Alright, so for the total cost of this DIY engine oil change, I will be excluding the tools as you might already have them at home. So beginning with the oil, the Toyota Genuine Motor Oil regular 20W50 4 liters cost 826 pesos. While the Toyota Genuine Motor Oil 20W50 1 liter, I bought 2, cost 212. While the Vic Oil Filter C110 cost 200 pesos. So that brings us to the total of 1,238 pesos. You'll be saving at around 200 or even more if you do it yourself rather than having your engine oil changed at the gas station or even at the dealership. So just for comparison or reference, the previous oil change with a semi-synthetic oil cost us 2,600 pesos. So there you have it. That's a DIY engine oil change and I hope it will help you. So please don't forget to like and share this video so that we could keep pushing out contents like this. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so that whenever I have a new video out, you'll be updated. So thank you guys for watching and stay safe.